don't know what happened to it. This one time I was in yard. They allowed us in yard, and so I'm sitting there in yard, and a ladybug flies up and lands on me. I don't know. I brought it back into the cell with us. It's like we're in the annex. There's like 60 guys or 50 guys or something. There's a lot of people in the annex, depending on which one you're in. And I went and brought it in there. Some guy was like, "Hey, that's good luck." Another thing I do is like shave my head bald in jail. I just shave it completely off. We'd get the razor, that way you wouldn't have to deal with it. It's just the water's so hard in there, just I don't know, I just get dandruff. So that's my best solution, was to just bick it, just take it off, and then go sit in the sunshine somewhere so I could like get some sun on that marble. I remember they had these lines in the annex around the door. They're about 4 foot from the door ish, and you're not supposed to cross that line. Now you can cross the line, go to the door and hit the intercom and ask and talk to the guard, or say something to the guard, but you're not. Once you do that, you're supposed to step back across the line. Well, I remember one day I walked up and I seen this like sign on the window, and it said, "If you feel like hurting yourself, or you know of anybody that's going to hurt themselves, please contact a guard immediately." And I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I was like, what if somebody really wanted to hurt themselves? Wouldn't they just hurt themselves? Because if you're going to talk about hurting yourself, you're giving other people a chance to thwart you. And so I thought it was the funniest thing I ever heard, because no one would ever tell them themselves. And whoever was going to would probably try to hide it so somebody else couldn't do it if they were really serious, unless they just wanted fucking attention. But whatever. For whatever reason, that sign was funny to me, because I just didn't think it made any sense. And whether it does or not, you can make your own opinion. I walked right up and pushed the button, because the guard looked like Barney Fife. I said, "Hey, Barney Fife, I feel like hurting myself." And then I let go of the button, and then I started laughing and walking off. Well, I made it to that yellow line, to that door. He had cleared his little pod, and another guard came in after him really fast, and I mean fast. So at one end of this jail, it's almost like a block long, you know. Well, it is a block long, but we're talking through corridors and all this kind of stuff. It might have been on the same level. They had at that moment, like I would say, no more than 2 minutes after I took one step in the opposite direction of that door, I was stripped and thrown in. The fat native was thrown inside of the hole. And what that was is a rubber room with a round hole in the floor to do your business in. There's no toilet paper, no nothing. Padded room, floors everywhere. And it's cold. And they slammed the door shut on me. Like, it did not take more than 2 minutes to make that shit happen. And then later on, the guard opened the door, and he's just like, "We're going to give you a blanket if you promise to be good, you know, or you promise not to hurt yourself with it or something." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not going to." It's like, "We're having somebody from mental health come down here and talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I put this blanket on, I'm shivering, and he's like, "If you need to take a shit, you do it in the hole, just bang on the door, and I'll come and flush it, but stand back, sometimes it splatters out of there." And he slammed the door and he laughed and walked off, but he was serious. He was just laughing about the shit would splatter, but don't fucking stand next to it, because then you're going to get shit on you, and that's funny. And I think that part was funny. The fact that I was in there, they took every threat seriously, and it makes sense now. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking then. Coming down on too many street drugs, there was a problem with my thinking, I'm for sure. Well, anyway, the Central Washington Comprehensive Mental Health lady walks in. I'm like underneath this like towel, and she starts like giving me a questionnaire. And I'm like, "Look, lady, I seen that thing. I thought it was funny. I just didn't understand why anybody would tell, and I explained the situation to her, and it was stupid. And then she made me promise not to that I wouldn't hurt myself because they take all things seriously. And I was like, clearly you guys do. Sorry, I messed that up. Clearly you guys do. And I'm really sorry. I should have never said nothing. But it doesn't matter. I ended up with an interview, and I just promised and signed papers that I wasn't gonna hurt myself. And I wouldn't plan on doing anything that day, but yeah, they took it seriously, and apparently it's not funny. One of the other times I was in Yakima County Jail, they got this guard was working with YVCC, and he was helping administer GED tests. And it's like guard said over the thing, he's like, hey, if anybody wants to study for their GED, you can study for your GED, just send in a kite and request it. And I was like, wow, okay, well, just put it in there. Send a kite. I just wrote a piece of paper. He wants to study for GED, and I pushed the button on the guard and told him what I was doing. He stood away from the door, and he came and he took the piece of paper. We call it a kite. He took my piece of paper, and then he went, and then a few days later, they called me up and took me into a room. And there was three or four or five people in this room. That was it. Out of the different places in the jail, they were all just kind of sitting there, and we're all just listening to him. And he was giving us practice tests, and we're getting ready to take our GEDs. I thought it was really weird. So he gave me my practice test, and he found out that I could probably pass the GED. He said, do you want to take the actual test? Then you need to pay $40. It's 5 tests, or it's $10 a test. He's like, do you have any family that will bring you money? And I was like, well, if you contact my dad would definitely put money towards the GED. My dad was definitely of the opinion, if you get into jail, you get yourself out of jail. I think he was really frustrated with his backdoor kid. He would not listen for shit. So, here we go. So he sent one of my stepmoms in with the money for the GED test. And the man gave me a GED test. I had 5 tests. They timed you. Everything was legit. Eventually I got my GED through YVC, but I actually took all the tests at Yakima County Jail. So I graduated from jail. Anyways, if there were 6 tests instead of 5, I would have passed. I got all the points. Just proves I could probably do something if I could stay off the street drugs. I remember going up in front of the judge, and he found out that I got a GED. He was absolutely appalled. He was very surprised. He was like, there's one thing you can do here, and he did it. He was looking around everywhere at all the people in the courtroom. He got a GED. That man was so happy he released me. Now, I had been on probation for probably a couple years from this felony, residential burglary, and he is Class B. And I had violated over and over again by not showing up to the probation officer over and over again. Man, I don't want to use his name. We'll call him my probation officer B. So probation officer B, he had a lot of problems with me. He would show up to my house and he'd be like, kid, don't run, it's automatic here if you run. I'm like, I ain't running nowhere, dude, I'm staying right here. Can I smoke a cigarette on the way? And so he would have this old squad car, I don't know what it was, and there's no divider or nothing, and then he'd just scold me all the way down there. because I wouldn't listen. He's like, I don't know why you can't just walk across the street. I mean, there's a judge